this video, we're going to cover how to move around inside the federal government. So if you're already a federal employee, it'll cover moving between agencies, staying within the same agency, even within the same facility, how those recruitments work. This video is requested by Victoria through an email. The things that we're going to cover is how to move around. So it's going to be applying through announcements using certain areas of consideration. It's going to be non-comp reassignments or non-competitive hiring. It's going to be direct hiring or just announcements that are open to the public. We'll also cover what goes on after a selection. So the release dates, how they're coordinated, pre-employment requirements, probationary periods, and pay setting. So stay tuned. Before we get started, you could help out by liking this video to help with the YouTube algorithm. Also subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of all the new videos that are uploaded, and share with anyone that could use this information. One of the ways to move around internally is to apply to announcements. And now that you're a current federal employee, you have access to hiring paths that you didn't have before. So when you look for a position, like I did here, I just did a quick keyword search for the 201 series, which is Human Resources Specialist. And then you have the hiring paths as your filters over here. So now that you're a current federal employee and you're looking to move around within the federal government, and this could be within your agency, within another agency, or even within your own facility, even your own department for internal promotions, this is what you're going to filter by. And you're going to check everything that applies to the federal employees that would fit yours. So competitive service, accepted service, and internal to agency. So competitive service and accepted service are usually checked when an announcement will be open to people in other agencies. And then internal to an agency is either going to be that agency or even that facility. So on the internal to an agency, you'll want to open up those announcements to show whether or not the explanation is for that department, for that facility, or for just that agency. And you'll be able to match these up on this side under the individual announcement, so you know which one to look for. Now we're just going to scroll and try to find one like this. For instance, it's open to the agency and it's also open to CTAP. So agency and CTAP will open up, and there should be a clarification from agency text right here. Open to IRS employees only. So that's how you're going to know which area of consideration that falls under. So if you were already working in the IRS, you would be eligible for this. If you weren't, then you wouldn't. So you could scroll down, and even other announcements might say only open to certain facilities within the agency. So you would always want to check this clarification from agency text. Now, one of the things about applying to announcements and using these areas of consideration is that time and grade applies when you're going from GS to GS. So since this would be a GS position and it says it's a 14, that means you would have to have a year at the next lower grade, which would be 13 in this case. But in other positions, there might be 2 grade intervals. So if a position is a 5, 7, 9, then if you're at the 7, the next lower grade would actually be the 5. And so you would just scroll down to the requirements of that position, and it would show you whether or not you had a time and grade requirement, which is right here. Time and grade is just 52 weeks at the next lower grade. It's 1 year. And then it would explain which grades those are. And it's important to note that time and grade only applies when it's GS to GS. So if you're in another pay plan, let's say WG, and you're going to GS, time and grade will not apply. It would be a conversion at that point, and then it would be just pay setting, converting your hourly rate over to the annual rate of the new position. If you need help with the entire hiring process from start to finish, check out our book, Federal Hiring Advice, Your Guide to Government Jobs, available on Amazon. The link to purchase is in the description below. Another way to move around internally through USA Jobs is to apply to announcements that are open to the public. Now, this could be announcements that are trying to get U.S. citizens that are posted through DEU. where veterans preference will still apply, or it could be direct hire announcement. Direct hire is when you don't have to use veterans preference when you're applying. So what you'll do is you'll get your search. We have the same search, 201 series, and then this time in our hiring path we want open to the public. This is going to give us everything that is open to the public. So I would skip something like this that also says federal employees and just go straight to these others, like the Department of Energy, for instance. And then this one, it'll tell you again through the clarification of agency. It's for U.S. citizens, and this says it's direct hire. So anytime that you're going to apply to an announcement that has external hiring authorities to the public or direct hire, you're going to be able to bypass time and grade like we discussed before. So when you scroll down, it's going to only be specialized experience. There should not be any time and grade questions in this announcement, and there's not. So what you could do is, let's say you took a position just to get your foot in the door. So you took a lower graded position than you actually qualified for. You could apply to an announcement that's open to the public, either through DEU or through direct hire like this one. And you could bypass time and grade because time and grade does not apply. The only exception is that you would have to have external experience to qualify. So if you still met the qualifications here, the specialized experience or the degree, you could apply and be considered for these positions without meeting time and grade because it's not applicable. But if your only experience is within the government and that is not within the next lower grade, then you still wouldn't qualify. You would have to have experience outside the federal government, or could be military experience or anything like that. It just could not be any other civilian service experience if it wasn't at the next lower grade. Another way to move around internally in the government is through non-competitive reassignments. This is what you would think of if you've ever considered a hardship reassignment, which aren't really a thing, but it would be what you would expect if that were real. So a non-competitive reassignment is if you're at the same or lower grade of a position that you want. If you are able to talk to that hiring manager and have them agree to hire you, if it's the same or lower grade, they can consider you for that. And if that hiring manager agrees, they can make the selection and you can just move over. This is also how the reasonable accommodation process works. So if you need to change positions because of a reasonable accommodation, you would work with the coordinator and they reach out to other departments that have vacancies that are the same or lower grade. And that way you're offered some positions that you can qualify for and then would be able to move straight across to those. The difference between the regular non-competitive reassignment and the reasonable accommodation is that non-competitive reassignments are optional. The hiring manager does not have to move you, but on a reasonable accommodation, if a position's identified and you can meet the physical requirements and the specialized experience so you qualify for that position, then the hiring manager doesn't have a choice. You're placed there. Another form of non-competitive hiring is VRA, Schedule A, being 30% or more disabled. Those you can do anytime, even if you're a current federal employee. For more detailed information about it, check out the video on veteran hiring options. But essentially what you could do is, if you're VRA eligible or 30% or more disabled or have a Schedule A, you can be non-competitively considered for any position. It's voluntary, so the hiring manager does not have to select you. You can apply through an announcement that's open to those hiring authorities, or you can request to be considered non-competitively. The benefit is that you can skip time and grade on all three of those authorities as long as you have external specialized experience, similar to when you're applying as to a public announcement. So if you are VRA eligible, that's the only one with a limitation. So VRA is limited to GS11. But if you're 30% or more disabled or have a Schedule A, there is no grade restrictions, so you can be hired at any grade. No matter which option you use to move around within the federal government to take that next position, the processing will be the same. So if you're selected for a position, whether it was because you applied to an announcement or had a non-competitive appointment, you'll still get a TJO, just like you did on your very first appointment. On the TJO, they'll go through your pre-employment requirements. So you still will have to complete pre-employment requirements. They just may be a little bit different. So if the position you're going to has the same background investigation level and you have a current background investigation, you probably won't have to repeat the EQIP. You may still have to do fingerprints, but you won't have to do EQIP. Fingerprints is required usually when you're going to be changing agencies or you need to get a new ID card or something like that, because fingerprints are required for the issuance of an ID card. Physicals. So if the position you're going to has the same or lower physical requirements than the new position, you shouldn't have to retake a physical. And if you're staying in the same agency and you're changing positions, but it's the exact same series, the exact same job, you should not have to take a new physical. Same thing with drug testing. So if your current position has a drug testing requirement and you've already completed drug testing, and your next position also has a drug testing requirement, you should not have to retake the drug test. If your position that you're in now does not have a drug testing requirement, but your new one does, then you will have to take the drug test. Probation. So if you're currently on a probation, then that will just continue into the next position. So VRA and Schedule A have 2-year trial periods. If you start a new appointment for VRA or Schedule A, then your trial period will start over. If you've already completed your probationary period and you don't have a break in service, most of the time you will not have to start a new probationary period unless you're jumping from competitive to accepted service and the positions are very different. But if they're the same type of duties, then you shouldn't have to redo a probationary period. Then once everything is complete, that's when the release dates or the EODs are set. So just like before, you got a TJO, then you had your pre-employment requirements, and then you got a firm offer. So at the firm offers, when your EOD was set before, the only difference is now your losing department will have a say in when your release is. So most bargaining unit positions, if it's a promotion, the losing agency or the losing hiring manager can only hold you for 2 pay periods. If it's a reassignment or a change to lower grade, there is no restrictions, so the 2 hiring managers will discuss that release date. And you'll want to let that happen and then transfer at the EOD so that you don't have a break in service. When you're changing positions within the federal government, you're not resigning and taking a new position. It's just a straight, without a break in service, crossover to the new position. Once you get selected, depending on your situation, it will dictate how your pay is set. So you have different pay setting options. There's the 2-step promotion if you're being promoted. It's highest previous rate if you're changing agencies or if you had a break in service, or it's a conversion if you're going from an hourly rate to an annual rate or vice versa. So the first one being the promotion. So if you're already within the federal government and you're getting a promotion, it's set the same way 90% of the time. It's called the 2-step promotion rule. And what the 2-step promotion rule says is you find where you currently are. Let's say you're a GS5 step 4. You move over 2 steps, which is the step 6, 42,138, and then you compare that to the grade you're promoting to. So if you're going from the 5 to the 7, 42,138 is less than the step 1, so that's where you get set, is the step 1. Now let's say same scenario, but you're only going to the 6, 42,138. You would find where that falls on the 6, and that's going to be step 3. because anything that's over the lower step, even if it's $1, you have to be moved over to the next one. Now, highest previous rate is where you're going to match the last salary that you made. And if you're doing a change to lower grade inside your own agency, it's automatic. But when you're changing agencies, a lot of times you have to go through the same process that you would on an initial appointment and work with the hiring manager to request that highest previous rate be granted. And the way highest previous rate works is you find out what grade and step you're at. And let's say you were a 9-step 1, 5-4, 727, and let's say your new position is a 7. You have to go find where that falls. So 5-4, 727 looks like it's going to end up being a step 8 because it's just a little bit more than the 7. So that's where you would be placed. It's going to be the same or greater. So even if it's $1 more, then your step gets moved out. When it comes to a conversion, let's say you're on an hourly rate, you would just multiply your hourly rate by 2087, and that would give you your annual rate. So if you were a WG, 2-step 5 making $20 an hour, you would do $20 an hour times 2087, and that would give you around 40 or so thousand. And at the step 5, that would set you, at that appropriate step. Just to summarize, if you're going to move around internally in the government, you've got a few options. One is to apply to job announcements that have the area of consideration that fits other federal employees, so the accepted service, the competitive service, or internal to agency. On your internal to agency, make sure you read the clarification from agency text in the announcement to know whether or not it's open to just that facility or to employees, all employees within the same agency. You also have non-competitive hiring options, so this would be non-comp reassignments or reasonable accommodations, or using VRA Schedule A 30% or more disabled hiring authorities. Then you can also apply to external announcements that are open to the public, which would either be DEU, where Veterans Preference applies, or direct hire authority, and it would be listed in the announcement whether or not it's going to be direct hire authority. Regardless of how you're selected, the pre-employment process is the same. So you're going to get a tentative offer. You'll only be scheduled for those pre-employment requirements that you have to complete, because some of them you won't since you're already a federal employee. Your probation will dictate or be dictated by what your situation is. If you're currently on probation, then it'll just carry over to the next position. VRA and Schedule A trial periods do reset if they're new appointments to those authorities. And then if you're already completed a probationary period, if you're changing and going to a similar position or a position that has similar duties, then you shouldn't have to redo your probationary period. Release dates are negotiated between the losing and gaining services, departments, agencies, whatever the case is, and HR helps to facilitate that. On promotions, bargaining unit employees usually can't be held more than 2 pay periods at one place, but if it's a reassignment or a change to lower grade, they can hold it as long as they want. So that's where the negotiation goes back and forth between the 2 hiring managers until they can agree. And then pay setting will be dictated by your situation as well. So if you're getting a promotion, usually it's the 2-step rule, highest previous rate, and also just converting hourly to annual, or if you're in a non-GS position to GS position, then it's usually just carried forward. Thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer. If you need to work one-on-one, you can visit the website at www.federalhiringadvice.com and we can schedule a time to meet.